In the sun-drenched paradise of Miami Beach, where luxury condos touch the clouds and fortunes change hands daily, one woman orchestrated a scheme so bold it would shake the foundations of Florida's real estate empire. This is the story of Cristina Cartavilla, a master of deception who turned the American dream into a nightmare for those who crossed her path. Behind the designer sunglasses and perfectly manicured appearance, Cristina Cartavilla cultivated an image of sophistication and success. To the casual observer, she was just another wealthy Miami socialite, navigating the city's exclusive circles with practiced ease. But beneath this carefully crafted facade lay the mind of one of the most cunning property swindlers the Sunshine State had ever seen. The year was 2008, and Miami's real estate market was reeling from the financial crisis. While others saw disaster, Cristina saw opportunity. With a combination of charm, wit, and calculated precision, she began weaving a web of deceit that would eventually encompass millions of dollars in property fraud. Her weapon of choice? Not a gun or poison, but perfectly forged documents and an intimate knowledge of real estate law's darkest corners. Through a complex network of shell companies and falsified paperwork, Cristina managed to gain control of properties she never rightfully owned. Her method was as brilliant as it was brazen. She would identify vulnerable properties, often those in foreclosure or with absentee owners, and exploit the gaps in Miami's overwhelmed property registration system. With each success, her appetite for larger scores grew. What made Cristina's schemes particularly effective was her ability to move seamlessly through Miami's high society. She hosted lavish parties in penthouses she'd fraudulently acquired, using these events to network with potential marks and gather intelligence on new targets. The very people who could have exposed her instead became unwitting accomplices in her expanding empire of deception. The foundation of her criminal enterprise rested on an extraordinary talent for forgery. Each document she produced was a masterpiece of deception, crafted with such precision that even experienced real estate attorneys were fooled. She didn't just forge signatures, she created entire paper trails of fake transactions, building a house of cards that would take investigators years to unravel. But like all carefully constructed facades, cracks began to appear. A suspicious title company clerk noticed inconsistencies in ownership records. A former victim recognized her face at a charity gala. The whispers began to circulate through Miami's real estate community. Something wasn't quite right with the charming Ms. Villa. As investigators began pulling at the threads of her schemes, they uncovered a pattern of fraud that stretched back years. Properties worth millions had been effectively stolen through a combination of forged documents, manipulated records, and expertly exploited legal loopholes. The scale of the deception was staggering, even to veteran fraud investigators. The most shocking aspect of Cristina's operations wasn't just the amount of money involved. It was the psychological manipulation she employed. She would often befriend her targets, gaining their trust before orchestrating their financial ruin. Some victims didn't realize they'd been swindled until months or even years after the fact. Her reign came to an end not with a dramatic arrest, but through the patient accumulation of evidence. As investigators closed in, they discovered that Cristina had managed to amass control of dozens of properties through her fraudulent schemes. The total value of her ill-gotten gains reached into the tens of millions of dollars. The exposure of Cristina Cartavilla's fraud sent shockwaves through Miami's real estate community. Her case revealed dangerous vulnerabilities in property registration systems and forced a wholesale review of how real estate transactions were verified. Title insurance companies strengthened their verification processes, and new safeguards were implemented to prevent similar schemes. Perhaps most remarkably, even after her schemes were exposed, some of her former associates refused to believe the truth. Such was the power of her charm and the completeness of her deception that many preferred to believe there had been some mistake rather than accept the reality of her crimes. Today, Cristina Cartavilla's story serves as a cautionary tale in the annals of real estate fraud. Her methods exposed how vulnerability and trust could be weaponized in the modern age, turning paper and pixels into tools of deception. In Miami's luxury real estate market, where appearances often matter more than reality, she proved that the most dangerous predators aren't always the ones who show their teeth. The legacy of her schemes lives on in strengthened regulations and heightened vigilance in property transactions. Yet perhaps her greatest impact was in showing how, in an age of digital records and instant verification, the art of the con remains as potent as ever, especially when wielded by someone who understands that true power lies not in force, but in making others believe what you want them to see.